Industry Advisory Board member, chair and co-chair, Margaret and Shai. Margaret, good morning. Do you have any update to share?
Good morning. As you're aware, just working with a hopefully new member that will join.
Yes, thank you so much for connecting to us. This is very exciting. I don't see that Dr. Gozani is on the call. Do we have Dr. Gozani? If it's not, with further ado, it's a great pleasure to present the speaker today, Dr. Sophie Wang from University of Connecticut. Dr. Wang is a professor in the Institute of Material Science. She's a young investigator with background in chemical engineering, and she already collected almost every possible award for young investigator, from NSF Career Award to PMSC Young Investigator Award to SME ORR Early Career Award, and many more. So it's amazing and accomplished young investigator, and it's a great honor to have her. She will talk about soft wireless pressure sensor integrated smart bandage for the management of diabetic foot ulcer. With that introduction, Dr. Wang, the platform is yours, and we are looking forward to your talk.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Let me share my screen. Okay. So, yeah, thanks again for the very nice introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my talk. So, today I would like to share, actually, I changed the title a little bit because I would like to share the wearable devices and also a little bit about the implantable devices we are working in my group. So basically the smart bandage and the electronic tissue scaffolds for biomedical applications. So before I dive into the technical details of my talk, I'd like to first give you an overview of research in my group. So basically we are working at the intersection of advanced materials, mechanics, and functional structures. More specifically, we work on three major directions, including active polymers like liquid crystal elastomers and shape memory polymers that can change their shapes and therefore their functionalities upon exposure to external stimuli. We also work on reconfigurable and morphing structures based on those active materials and multi-stability. In addition, we also work on functional structures to interface with biology, including 3D electronics for the monitoring and stimulation of engineered tissue, and also 3D microfluidics to mimic vascular networks in biology. Along this line, we also develop a soft, flexible electronic sensors in the 2D format, including physical and chemical sensors for biomedical applications and also ocean sensing. So in the talk today, I would like to share with you two subtopics, including wearable devices, the pressure sensor integrated smart bandage for the real-time pressure monitoring of diabetic foot ulcers, and also implantable devices like 3D electronic scaffolds for the online monitoring of engineered tissues. Okay, so let's go to the first topic. So the major motivation for this work is the diabetic foot ulcers. As you may know, diabetic foot ulcers are hard to heal wounds. They are commonly located at the bottom of the foot. Because of the nerve damage, patients usually have decreased sensation capabilities. So when they are walking, they are standing, they have no idea about how much pressure is put on their foot. But offloading, which means releasing the pressure on the wound site, is very important for the healing of these diabetic foot ulcers. Even with the proper offloading, for example, with the help of offloading shoes, it still takes about 78 days to heal. But research discovered that patient adherence to offloading is as low as 2.2%, which has significantly prevented the healing of the foot ulcers. So to address this issue, so here we developed a smart system for continuous pressure monitoring and for providing real-time feedback to patients and clinicians, so that they can make it can help them make decisions regarding how to perform the treatment. So here is a schematic of the smart bandage. Okay, let me see if I can get the laser point. Okay, here it is. So here is a schematic of the smart bandage. But it is composed of three major components, including a pressure sensor incorporated into a bandage that is used for diabetic foot ulcers, and a printed circuit board that houses all the electronics for power supply and data transmission, and a customized user interface that can be used in a smartphone or other smart devices for the data display. For example, for a dashboard for patients and clinicians, from where they can know whether the offloading is sufficient or they need immediate basically follow-up regarding the pressure put on the foot. So this smart basically user interface can also give the users the text and the audio alerts when the pressure is above a preset threshold value, which I will discuss later. Okay, so next I will basically go into a little bit more about the details of each component and also the testing of the smart device. So as you can see from here, the smart bandage part is composed of basically the sensor incorporated into the foam bandage and encapsulated with a layer of Maptel for protection. So regarding the sensor, it is actually composed of a very simple materials. It's a pressure sensitive film. The reason why we use this is first, it's pretty cheap. Second, it's easy for scalability. So basically, we use the polyimide tape for the encapsulation of the sensor. So here is an optical image of the integrated bandage and also the basically the sensor. So the wires here are for basically data acquisition. So we also characterize the pressure sensor using a mechanical tester. As you can see from here, the pressure sensor has almost a linear response to the pressure up to 250 kilopascal to accommodate the weight of different users. We also basically verified the accuracy of the measurement of the pressure sensor by basically calibrating it against the real pressure applied to the sensor. You can see that it's actually showing pretty accurate. Okay, to basically perform the data transmission, we developed this flexible thin layer printed circuit board. As you can see from here, we have microcontrollers and also other electronic components integrated within this actually about 1 centimeter in diameter printed circuit board. This is the front side and the back side of the printed circuit board. So we further characterized the response time and the hysteresis behaviors of the pressure sensor. As you can see from here, the pressure sensor actually is pretty responsive with a resolution of actually less than 0.3 seconds. We also tested the performance under actually up to 100 cycles. Here we just showed a few cycles to show that actually it has minimal hysteresis effect, which demonstrated its reliability. So to test the performance of the pressure sensor, we basically applied it to the foot at the 2 locations, sole and heel. Those 2 locations were chosen because they are easy to develop the foot ulcer. So basically, you can see that when we perform sitting, standing, and walking, the pressure sensor can be used to monitor the pressure conditions in real time. Here are just the kind of like a zoomed-in plot of each activity: sitting, standing, and walking. Also, from those measurements, you can see that the pressure level at the heel is usually lower than that at the sole location. Okay. So we further tested the pressure sensor for basically a comparison study. One with the offloading boot that patients usually wear for the offloading purpose. One is on barefoot. Okay, so here the foot means on barefoot. Boot means when the person wears the offloading boot. You can see that actually by using the smart bandage, we can see that indeed wearing the boot can reduce the pressure levels applied to the foot, no matter when you're standing, walking, or basically sitting. Okay. So as I mentioned before, so to make it more convenient for use and also to provide real-time feedback to users, we basically developed a customized smart app for data display and also to provide the alert to the users. So here are the 2 scenarios. One is when the user has basically sufficient offloading, which means the pressure put on the wound site is below basically a threshold value. The second scenario is when the user is putting too much pressure on the foot, which means insufficient offloading. So here is the interface of the smart app. So we first set a pressure threshold. Basically, this threshold as a standard. When the pressure is below this threshold, you can see that we have a bar chart. And of course, you can also see the real-time pressure here, and also a smiley face, which means you have a sufficient offloading. But when the pressure is above this threshold, the user will get a visual text and audio alert saying that, okay, you're putting too much pressure on your foot, you need to offload. In addition, we can also convert this bar chart to a line chart, which shows the basically real-time pressure display. The major reason we chose this bar chart as a major display interface is for the convenient use of the user, because for a lot of users, they may not necessarily recognize or correlate those pressure levels. But if you use a green or red bar chart, they can immediately recognize, okay, whether I'm putting too much pressure on that. Also, after the testing, the user can get a lesson summary, which can give the information of the duration of the testing, the threshold, and also the percentage of the time when the threshold is exceeded. Also, the user can export the data into basically the cloud for further processing. Okay, so next I will share a few videos showing how this entire smart bandage works. So let me see. Change it back to. Okay. Sorry. Need to change the laser pointer back to. Oops. So why it doesn't let me do that? Okay. So this is how to basically set up the sensor, the smart band. Basically, you first need to get it connected and pair the sensor and the app, and then you put in the pressure threshold. For example, we use the 100 kilopascal here, and then you can just get it connected. And of course, we want to calibrate the sensor when no external load is applied. Okay, so this is how to initiate the app. The second is showing basically, oops, this is the real-time pressure display. So you can see that when the pressure is exceeding the external the preset threshold, basically an alert will appear. So we can also see the session report. We can also show the line chart. Basically, you can switch between the bar chart and the line chart if you want to see more information about basically the pressure. Okay, so I also want to use a video to show the alert system. Even the app is running in the background, it can also basically detect the pressure and send out the alert system when the pressure is beyond the threshold value. Another feature of this app is automatic reconnection after the power is off or after, for example, the user is beyond the detectable range of the smart bandage. So it can reconnect automatically when, for example, the user returns within the range of the Bluetooth or when the power is turned on. Okay, so far I have discussed our efforts in developing the various smart bandages for the prevention and the management of diabetic foot ulcers. So next, I want to share with you basically implantable device we developed in our group for biomedical applications, basically for the monitoring of 3D tissues. So the major motivation for this one is basically to monitor the functionality of 3D living tissues to develop in vitro models for drug development and in vivo tissue repair and regenerative medicine. So as you may know, so for the recent 15 years, a lot of money is spent on drugs that have failed to reach market. And also there is a huge gap between the number of people waiting for the donated organs and the number of available organs. So people have been trying to develop or engineer tissues for in vitro models for to develop drugs and also for tissue repair. But the question is, how do you know whether engineered tissue is functional or not? So there are many different ways to do it. One of the important ways to evaluate the functionality of tissue is their electronic characteristics. So, but you know, the tissue itself is 3D, right? Typical electronics are 2D, so they cannot probe the 3D volumetric space of the 3D tissue. So for the past decade, there have been some efforts in developing 3D electronic scaffolds to probe the 3D volumetric space of tissues, including folding or rolling of 2D electronics, but still they cannot accurately control the configuration and also the layout of the functional element. So here we basically developed an approach to assemble 3D electronic scaffolds in well-controlled configurations and the distribution of functional elements. So basically, we started with the fabrication of 2D electronic scaffolds and compressively buckled them into 3D electronic scaffolds, where functional elements, including electrodes and sensing stimulation components, are incorporated. We also have this contact pad for basically power supply and data acquisition. So here is a schematic showing basically how the electronic scaffold can be incorporated into the tissue contracts for monitoring the tissue function and also for drug release. So to better illustrate the process of assembling the 3D electronics, here is a finite element modeling video showing how the 2D pattern is assembled into this 3D structure based on this compressive buckling technique. Here, different colors represent different components of the tissue scaffold, including the red part, which shows the electrodes, functional elements, circular wires, and also the encapsulation polyimide layer. So here shows the modeling and also the basically optical images of the electronic scaffolds with distributed electrodes and also the contact pad for data basically acquisition of power supply. So with this scaffold, we can do recordings of electrical activities of tissues and also electrical stimulation and drug delivery by electroactive polymers. In addition, we can also basically well control the configurations and the layout of the functional elements. As you can see from here, a few options for the scaffolds. So we characterized the electrochemical and also mechanical properties of the scaffolds. As you can see from the here, the modulus of the scaffold is pretty small, which is actually softer than that of the cardiac tissues, which basically allows the minimal damage to the tissue. Okay, so we also basically collaborated with people for drug release, and basically here is to utilize electroactive polymer for the controlled release of negatively charged drugs for treating the inflammation of tissues. To demonstrate the functionality of the 3D electronics for recording and stimulation, we first integrated with hydrogels. Here are the images of basically how the electronic scaffold looks like after the integration with hydrogel, and how the basically the electrodes look like under the SEM. So we as I mentioned before, we also basically integrated the 3D electronic scaffolds use it as a scaffold for the development of cardiac tissues to demonstrate the functionality. So here are the developed 3D tissues and also the potential recordings and the electronic stimulation of the cardiac tissue. Okay, to summarize, so in this talk, I have discussed our efforts in developing wearable and implantable devices for biomedical applications. One is a pressure sensor integrated smart bandage for the prevention and the management of diabetic foot ulcers. Of course, it can also be applied to other pressure injuries. So in addition, we also developed this 3D electronic scaffolds for the monitoring and regulation of tissue functions. So finally, I'd like to thank my group members, collaborators, and the funding sources that make my research possible. With that, I will stop here and open the floor for questions and comments. Thank you.
Wow, well done, Dr. Wang. It's exciting, very innovative. Again, thank you so much for actually allocating some of your energy and research in managing the diabetic foot ulcer. I'm hoping to also encourage other engineers as well as maybe industrial members to pay more attention to diabetic foot problem. Maybe some may not realize how big the problem is, but just notice for some of those numbers, like every 1 second, someone develop a foot ulcer, and unfortunately, every 20 seconds, someone is losing a limb because of it. And there are some studies that suggest that 80% of those limb amputation could be preventable. But there are some simple tools like measurement of adherence to offloading. It can be effective to really help to prevent limb amputation and help to accelerate wound healing. So what you are presenting, Dr. Wang, is right on point. It's really addressed the true unmet need that we have in the field. Of course, from a practical standpoint, this is the question that I have. I work with some other companies and they try to design some new dressing. For example, we're testing a dressing that deliver oxygen to the wound bed because all the theories suggest that this is effective, and they did successfully some animal research to demonstrate that it's effective. But when we translate it to human subject, we fail because sometimes some of those materials can change the property of the dressing. For instance, its ability to absorb moisture. And if we don't absorb, or if we don't control the moisture, it can lead to, for example, wound exudate and more problem, and also increasing likelihood of infection. So I would like to hear your point of view about adding that sensor, that whether do you think that it may impact some of the property of the standard wood dressing, like this foam dressing that we recommend for wound healing, and why we should add a sensor for measuring of the pressure adherence in the dressing? Why not on the, for example, edge of the dressing rather than be on the wounds, maybe on the side of the dressing? What is the rationale behind of it that you are focusing to integrate your sensor as a part of dressing?
Okay, yeah, thank you for the comments. So if I understand you correctly, there are two questions here. One is for the incorporation of for example, capability of delivering oxygen or moisture.
No. Sorry. I give a background. I repeat again my question in the shorter form. I know that was very long time. Do you think that adding the sensor dressing may change the property of the dressing, for instance, for absorbing the moisture?
Oh, okay. So you're asking whether adding the sensor may change the properties of the dressing. Okay, so first, I think the sensor actually is made of a very soft material, and also it's pretty thin. So we have not tested quantitatively, but I think it will not significantly affect the properties of the dressing. Right. So I think you also asked why we directly integrated into the dressing instead of, for example, putting on the shoes or integrated with other parts of the, for example, the shoes. I think the major consideration is first is to make it the measurement more accurate by integrating it into the dressing. Second is, for some diabetic, actually a lot of diabetic foot ulcer patients, they probably do not want to wear the shoes or that offloading a boot. To avoid this type of issue, we basically decided to directly incorporate it into the dressing.
Doctor, this is Margaret Halstead. If I recall, you said that this sensor is integrated into a foam dressing?
Right, it is in okay, Okay, yeah, it is incorporated into a foam dressing for demonstration, but actually, there is no limitation regarding which type of dressing we can incorporate the sensor into.
So Dr. Halsted, it's great, Margaret, it's great that you asked this question. You are part of the company and you work with a lot of variety of the dressing. Do you think that industry might be open to integrate sensor as a part of dressing?
I do think the technology absolutely has merit, and I know it's something that's being worked on in several other laboratories as well. A couple of questions that came to mind, depending on, like you said, if a foam dressing is actually designed to absorb, and it's only covered for patients with moderate to heavy drainage. So the foam dressing itself, since it doesn't interfere, would take care of the absorption of exudate and such. Other dressings, of course, that would be a consideration. If wound exudate is getting through, does that have any impact? I understand you said it was encased in some transparent film or some casing, but that would absolutely need to be explored. I am curious though, because for diabetic foot patients, part of the type 2 diabetes issues is obesity. So what is the average weight of a patient that could use this and exert pressure while walking, whether on tile or carpet or hardwood? And what would be the accuracy of the device at that point?
Okay, thank you for the question and comment. So basically, it's a measurement range of the pressure sensor, right? And the resolution of the pressure sensor. So we tested the sensor up to 250 kilopascal regarding the pressure. So I think that can accommodate actually a wide range of patients of different weight. But we, if needed, we can also basically further extend the measurement range. We just tested up to 250 kilopascal. So it's I think the sensor itself, it can accommodate basically a larger pressure.
Dr. Wang, I have a related question from in the chat from Dr. Chiara at Caltech. How do you decouple the change in the resistance from the contact variation effect? I think that's very related with what Margaret asked.
Okay, decouple the change in resistance from contact variation effects.
Yeah, because you have people with different weight and you have different pressure, and that definitely will change the resistance in general. And then you have variations because of contact pressure. So how did you decouple that?
Okay, so actually for our sensor, it's we basically customize the size of the sensor to the wound dimension. It's the sensor for the sensor we tested. It's about 1 centimeter, 1.5 centimeter in diameter. So we actually assume full contact with the user. Because the sensor is pretty small, it basically covers a small part of the foot. But I think this is a good question. I haven't thought about this. So basically, you mean, for example, when the user is performing different activities, or if the weight of the user will affect the contact area of the between the sensor and the foot, right?
Actually, Chiara is here. Chiara, can you ask the question directly?
Thanks for the answer. And by the way, I really enjoyed the talk, and I'll definitely follow up. But I do have a question about, the fact that one problem is changing the weight and changing the contact area is one point. But how do you ensure that the contact between the conductive threads and your polymer is always constant? For example, doesn't the interaction between the conductive thread, the electrodes basically, and your polymer vary depending on the static loading, the shear loading applied, and all these other conditions that are going to affect the reading? based
Oh.
on not the response of the polymer alone, but the system altogether. But if you have an influence on the contact, it's going to be very hard to calibrate.
Oh, I got it. Yeah. First, thank you, Kira. Actually, I was introduced to, I think, Dr. Armstrong and Bizan by Kira when I delivered a talk at Caltech and talked to Kira. Thank you for that, and also thank you for attending this seminar. So I see. So you were thinking about the contact between the conductive thread and the conductive the polymer. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, so regarding this contact, I think it's pretty the contact is pretty tight. So we actually assume no delamination or no effect of no external effect will be put on this contact. So basically, they are encapsulated with polyimide tape. So we the contact is pretty good. So we do not expect basically the contact will be affected by external effects. That's our assumption. But I think you were thinking about basically, for example, shear stress or normal stress, whether they under different weight, whether they will affect this contact, right?
That's right. Yeah, but yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good point. So actually, because the contact is pretty tight and the adhesion is pretty strong. I do not expect this effect, but I think that's a very good point. We will definitely perform more quantitative testing on whether the resistance will change under different, for example, shear stresses or scenarios.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for raising this comment. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I'm seeing that Gosda asked a question that whether, for example, these change of moistness may change some of the conductivity if I read correctly. So can the patient evaluate? So Gosda, do you want to elaborate on your question? That you said that about the conductive thread. Go ahead.
Sure, Dr. Najafi. So I have 3 different questions. The first question is what kind of conductive thread that you used for those pressure sensors, and did you stitch them on the sensor or you use some kind of glue type of that?
Okay.
That's the first question.
So the conductive threads, basically we just it's some copper-based conductive wire.
Conductive wire.
So
okay.
we basically secure it onto the polymer by using the polyimide tape.
Okay, I see. So that comes to the second question, how the moisture or sweat affects the conductiveness of this thread. But since it is a not thread, it is a wire, so it won't affect so much, right?
That's correct. So it's a wire and also it's secured and encapsulated. We actually performed some testing by submerging the device into water and monitoring for at least a week. We didn't see any change in the resistance. So which means it has very good actually waterproof capability. Right.
I see that's good. So my last question is about that the graphs that you showed about the threshold of the pressure and then the line graph that you showed. So when a patient see that, can they evaluate that they are getting off the threshold? So how is it meaningful for the patients?
Okay, yeah, very good question. Actually, so for the testing we performed, we put a threshold value, but I think this value may vary from patient to patient, from user to user. Regarding this, the magnitude of the value, we are still basically looking for a standard to see what would be the best threshold value for depending on the patient. So, but regarding the platform, as long as you have this value incorporated into the smart app, basically the app will send out a very I'll give you very good feedback regarding whether you are above or below this threshold.
I see. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but regarding the magnitude of the threshold, we are still actually looking for collaborators or people working in this field to give us more feedback or information about that.
I see. Thank you.
Right. So I'm seeing a question from Dr. Kolonov, the editor-in-chief of Journal of Diabetes Science and Technology. That could be a relevant journal for publication of your result, Dr. Wang. So Dr. Kolonov asked for whether we can use your technology for behavioral change. Dr. Kolonov, please feel free to chime on your question.
Well, you've got a great sensor and you're providing really useful information. You need people to act upon it. As an endocrinologist, we see patients who receive information about insulin dosing and other information for monitoring glucose, and they don't always follow it. So we feel that behavioral theory is really important. And if you could combine behavioral theory, then people will use your information more effectively.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I think a very good point.
I can tell you at UCSF Diabetes Clinic, we spend half our time talking about the behavior of patients. We're not just saying what is the treatment they need. We're talking about how can we get people to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think basically patient adherence to, for example, either offloading or doctors or clinicians' suggestions is very important for the treatment of diabetic foot ulcers. So that's yeah, very good comment. Regarding the behavior theory, actually, it's very new to me. Do you have any further comments or suggestions how to incorporate that into, for example, the device?
Yeah, send me an email later. It's really complicated. For for diabetes, we know what people need to do, but they just often don't do it.
Sure. Yeah, I will follow up. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good point, Dr. Kolonov. Actually, we have a trial in which we are using a smart offloading that in real time through a smartwatch, notify them if they don't have compliance to where they're offloading, and simply they ignore that. So yes, the challenge to say that, okay, we measure, we notify they don't have compliance, but what's the next step? How we can engage them? This is the part that is very tricky part that we need to consider. But the first step is that we can manage what we can measure. So we should have some measurements and then apply the theory. Yes, Dr.
Well, I'm going to use this forum one more time. We're starting a project on food logging, and it's the same thing. We can ask people to log their food. They absolutely won't do it. But if any of the people on this call are interested in the technical part of it, I'd love to hear from you.
There you go. That's the beauty of these kind of the platform to connect people together. Philippe, you have a question. Please go ahead.
Hey, Xueju. Great talk. So you probably can guess what my questions will be. They're more about the powering and connectivity of these type of devices, right? And it's also related to what David has mentioned. One of the challenges is, right, the compliance or adherence and the effort into maintaining the device is a key part of it, right? If it takes a lot of effort to operate the device itself, that drives low compliance. So my question is, and forgive me if you covered this already, I came in mid-talk, but how often would you need to recharge? What's the type of acquisition method? Are you using NFC and an extra reader, or can you quickly comment on that?
Sure, yeah, first, yeah. Great to see you here. Actually, Philip and I, we worked in the same group for postdoc, so we had some overlap there. So yeah, so yeah, thanks for your comment. Basically, one is for the duration, right, of the battery. So we tested the battery. It can last up to 4 days. 4 to 5 days, actually, depending on if you use it continuously, which means 24 hours a day. So we think it's good, at least for now, because if you consider the diabetic foot ulcer patients, they usually also need to change the bandage every 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 days, if I remember correctly. So I think so far, I think it's good enough. Sorry, what's your second question?
That was related to it, right? So the device itself, I haven't seen the pictures where the battery actually sits. Is the battery exerting any pressure on the foot as well? Does it create any topological pressures, or is it located outside? I'm not sure if you've shown a picture.
It will not. It will not. So basically, we located the pressure sensor within the bandages, but the electronics part is located to other parts. Depending on the user, they can either put it on the, for example, part of their shoes or on the front surface of their foot, depending on their convenience. So you will not put any pressure onto the foot.
Okay, so it's basically a solution that's more for the stationary patient that is not very active in their space.
No, really. So for example, we have people wear the sensors for different activities because they're all healthy. So they do exercise, work in the gym, they even take a shower. So it doesn't affect the performance of the entire device system, because the system is pretty robust, at least based on our testing so far.
Okay, so you have them integrated onto the shoe. So there's some solution to enclose the electronics and have them attached to the device.
Correct.
Or to the foot. Or yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Right.
So actually, I'm seeing that Dr. Fukuta, who is an infectious disease that also dealing with a lot of patients who are underserved, is on the call. Thank you, Dr. Fukuta, to join the call. So do you have any comments or suggestions here?
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much for your nice talk. I am a physician and I see diabetic foot patient in clinic. And my question is, where exactly you want to put the sensor? It's in a wound bed or peri-wound. So in the patient with diabetic foot ulcer, sometimes the depth is like 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, and we pack the wound. And some people pack a lot and so much, but some people do not pack too much, because if we pack too much, the wound is not gonna close. But I wondered if we put the sensor just below the packing, the packing can affect the sensor, because if you attach the sensor directly to the peri-wound, probably it's accurate. But I wondered if you put the sensor just below the packing, the exudate and the packing may affect the sensor accuracy. But I just want to ask you a question.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for the question. So we actually just 1 second, I think it might be helpful to to share this one. So currently we basically put the sensor on top of the bandage, but we have another layer MapTel on top of the sensor, and then we basically the plan is to put this smart bandage onto the wound site. That's the plan. Of course, we are still in the stage of testing on healthy volunteers. We would like to welcome our feedback from, for example, clinicians or people who work with diabetic foot ulcer patients like you.
Exactly, this is the point. This is a platform to really build partnership. And I know that at early stage, but if you can team up with people like Dr. Fukuta, that she's seeing tons of wounds, in particular in underserved population. And even the insurance doesn't cover offloading for those patients. And that could be a great partnership to ensure that this technology can in line of the data. I was wondering that, Dr. Wang, if you can share your maybe email in the chat box, and also if you're interested, we can connect it to the other teams. I know that John Paul, you are raising your hand, but we are already passing the time. If you can quickly ask your question, I appreciate that.
Hey, Bijan. So thanks. I will follow up with you offline, Dr. Wang. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you. That was great discussion. This is what I love about those meetings. So have people from different expertise sitting on the same room and brainstorm. And hopefully, I'm hoping that that can connect the people to partner and collaborate together to address one of the major unmet needs that we have in the field. Thanks again, Dr. Wang. Excellent talk. And thank you all. Happy Friday and see you all next week.